thrilled to have with us today Mithun Sacheti, the co-founder and former CEO of Caratlane, which is an omni-channel jewelry company that is now owned by the Titan Group. Mithun is a graduate from the Sydenham College, went to IIM Bangalore, and then also studied at the Gemology Institute in the United States, GIA, an expert on consumer behavior patterns, the D2C market, online retailing. In terms of some personal qualities, he is most definitely a risk taker, personified by his resilience and focus. And those adjectives come to me from the last talk I heard him speak at. And if you really want to get to know how he's resilient and how he's a risk taker, try to get him to tell you the story of how he got the valuation he did. Simply amazing story on how he, had this patience and resilience. So a patient capitalist for sure. Mithun, thrilled to have you here and thrilled to get your opinions on the future of work as we see it. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Vibha. And for everybody else to know, I've known Vibha since she was in school. And also, only one correction, I'm a fake IIM Bangalore graduate because all I did was the executive MBA and I didn't do the real stuff.
Okay, but you did the real stuff in life, Mithun. And
that may be.
Having really known you for so many years, I'm extremely proud of your success. I almost feel like I'm talking to my brother as we're doing this interview. It's an emotional interview for me. So thank you once again. Okay, so Mithun, as we lay the context of this conversation, why talk about the future? Why should people be thinking about the future? Why talk about it? Why read about it? Why the future of work?
I think most businesses and most humanity lives in hope, and the future is really what hope holds for us. And so I think it's always nice to talk about the future because in some ways you're talking about hope as well.
Okay, that's a beautiful answer. Okay, so the future signifies hope, and of course we're all hopeful. And I think KPC personified that for us. So the future is what we're hopeful for, and let's go a little bit deeper into what we should be hopeful for. So as we all rest on hope, everything's hinging around hope. What are some of the trends you're seeing, in terms of factors that are shaping the future of work? People talked about technology, sustainability, globalization. Where are you seeing these trends? And from your lens, from your vantage point, how do you see these trends evolving?
Luckily I chose an industry and a category in which the rate of change relatively is slower. It's not the same as many other industries as such. So I must say that, the art of making jewelry and the art of selling jewelry both have not been impacted that much. Having said that, there's been more impact in the last 10 years than possibly there's been in the last 100 years. And there'll be significantly more in the next 5 years as compared to what's been there in the last 10 years itself also. When I remember when I started Caratlane, everyone said, who in the right mind is going to buy jewelry online? And now it's second nature, at least to browse. And for about 5-10% of people is to buy jewelry online as well also. If you take this lens a little further ahead as well, and you divide this conversation into 3 areas where the future lies. One is with the consumer. Second is how do you make this? And third is how do you sort of distribute this? The consumer behavior has completely changed and will continue to change at a much faster pace. The ability to find what you like at a significantly faster pace will be aided by everything that happens in the digital world. Back in the day, you had to go shop to figure out what you want to buy. Things are going to get a lot more targeted. Window shopping will become a lot lesser, and window shopping will become a lot lesser physically. It'll become a lot more digitally. And it is already happening. Maybe about 15% of people browse right now. You'd see this number go significantly higher.
They're browsing online in terms of they're searching online for what they want.
Yes, and it'll get more and more effective because the more people do it, the better the science gets around it as well also.
Okay, so the algorithms will develop further and will personally sort of target your preferences.
Yes, not just today's algorithms tells you basis of your last search. Future algorithms will tell you basis of your last search and your life stage, both on that. And so I think they'll get a lot smarter on that. When you come to the manufacturing side of things, I think today you see large factories which are prosperous because every single person whenever they order in the front end, at the back end, there are large factories that make all this jewelry and sort of make that happen. Those Babu days are obviously gone. We are now in the mechanized state of this whole thing. This will move to personalized manufacturing through 3D printing, which is already happening, and jewelry has always been ahead of it because it's a small form factor, and you can sort of make this happen. You would see 3D printing happen such that you could personalize and manufacture closest to you, as opposed to centralized factories. Manufacturing will become a decentralized process, and you'll see cities have their own setups to sort of make this happen at the weight, at the purity, at the quality that you want, and all of that will happen at possibly much better accuracy than you've ever seen it happen before in the past as well. In terms of distribution,
so that if we stay on manufacturing for a little bit,
sure,
is there going to be like the reason India is such a big market for this is because there is a cost and labor advantage. Now, if you're saying 3D printing is going to take over, is there going to be cost advantage, cost arbitrage in jewelry, or is that going to go away?
No, 3D printing by definition is a long tail activity. It's not really for mass production, but it's for personalized production. When somebody buys something, they ideally want to buy for themselves, and you can add that little bit of personalization into that and do things like that, which you can't do in centralized manufacturing. So in a decentralized manufacturing process, you can do this. Now, it does not print all the way to the end. It doesn't give you a finished product. It brings you 80% of the way there. The last 20% is still human touch on all of this to happen. And that is not going to go away. Even today in a centralized function, that happens. That 80% is mechanized, 20% is human touch in that. Just that it'll now happen in a decentralized manner. You'll be able to do this with a lot more accuracy. 3D printing as a technology is significantly superior than casting or stamping, either one of those technologies.
Okay, got it. Okay, great. All right, let's go to your third point. You said consumer behavior manufacturing.
Yeah, consumer behavior, because search is going to change. The way you browse and the way you find what you want to buy changes. There's a very good possibility that, and jewelry is one area where AR, VR have not made any impact yet because it's metallic by nature. And you're going to see significant impact come in that area. I think we're at that point where computing power will allow metallic AR, VR also to happen. We don't see that today. We see that today more with solid colors and solid forms as such. I think it'll change now. We will see a difference happen on this whole thing. I think that might be one other big change. What it'll do is that your ability to sit at home and feel that this really is what it looks like, then the accuracy of the production process to deliver exactly what you're seeing. The combination of those two will make browsing far more effective, imagining jewelry far more effective as well also. And while you might still continue to buy in stores, and that's the consumers love that behavior as well also. But the top of the funnel and the mid funnel will start shifting to digital platforms as opposed to just the top of the funnel, which happens in a browsing scenario.
Okay. And how long do you think before the entire funnel moves to purchasing things online? Like where, if you had to lay this out?
I don't think the entire funnel moves to purchasing online. It's almost like an antisocial behavior on that. And why do you buy online today? Either buy for price or you buy for convenience. One of these two things. Browsing is convenience. Certainly browsing is convenience, but there isn't a price advantage in jewelry as such for buying online as opposed to buying offline, because rent as a percentage of sales is a very small factor in jewelry. So I don't think that it moves away completely. Even today, let's say 5 years ahead, will still be less than where Amazon is with many other categories today. It's not 100% of the market, right? It's maybe 10, 15% of the market is online. So I don't see that ever completely changing, but I see it making giant steps on that part. So my desire to gift something to somebody who stays anywhere else in this country or in the world will become that much easier to do that for jewelry, which you cannot do today. It's very challenging to get the right thing and to be convinced that it's going to be the right product that reaches that person.
Okay, so you're trying to make the experience, the digital experience, as close to real as possible. But you still think that people are still, the final touch point is still going to be that store, and most people, talking about say 80 to 90% of people still going to the stores to make that final purchase.
Yes, there's a tactile need in this product and this category. You want to see what it looks like. You want to see what it looks like worn on something else. All of those things will make sure that this that 80% of the business certainly stays offline on that, or at least the end funnel of that stays offline.
Okay. And how do you see trends in terms of marketing evolve? You know, how I know you were a believer in digital marketing from a very early stage, and you've talked about how the first, initial customer base should always be built digitally and now not go through print media, etc. Where do you see marketing moving to in the next 4 or 5, 10 years?
I think the quality of we're in the I call the first decade as the we got used to what is digital media. This which is the 90s. The second decade is when we started spending on digital media. The third decade is now when we understand what is digital media. It's an extremely inefficient channel for all businesses at this point. At some point, it has to become efficient. And I think that efficiency will start happening in this decade. People will start understanding consumers better. You don't want to reach, this needle in haystack model that it has right now, that conversion rates are between 1 to 3%. If humans had to make phone calls and say that 1% of people were to convert, we die, right? I mean, the cost will just kill us. And the same thing happens with digital right now. I think we will all get a lot more targeted. We'll all get a lot more precise. We'll all, because we have life stages available and not just browsing anymore. And I think all of this will make sure that we're far more targeted and deliberate about the people we reach out to, as opposed to as I was saying earlier, this needle in haystack or this AK-47 approach of I want to find one customer and I go with a machine gun. Yeah.
Okay. So when you're saying you're saying the user will get smarter in terms of how to use the platforms.
No, I'm saying the advertiser will get smarter.
And algorithms will also get developed. The algorithms will get smarter in terms of picking out the customer preferences.
Yes. Because think about it this way, last 10 years, they're building data on every single person. It's now going to become richer and richer as time goes by. Also, real-time computing power will increase a lot as well. So I think all of this will add up and become that.
Okay. And since you mentioned the word data, and the word data comes up a lot in my interviews, right? Because the future of work is largely about data. Is there a data play that you've been playing on over the last years as you've been building Caratlane? What's the data play for you?
The whole desire to improve your conversion only happens through data. It does not happen any other way. And data is played for at small scale in little shops as well. The fact that you remember it's a customer's anniversary or a birthday itself is a data point. Now, the ability to do this at a very large scale, remember his taste and preferences, remember his sizes, remember all of this together, maybe let's say 17, 18 attributes per customer is the cohort of data sets that you remember. The timing he wants to buy, what product he's likely to buy, what life stage is he in, and all of this. These are all data points that you really need to know so that you make his browsing journey that much more relevant and enjoyable as well. So we've been doing that. And we also see that our platform's getting richer and richer with data. And while I'm not the CEO anymore of Caratlane, but I see my colleagues are still running that and trying to populate and make it that much richer, because a richer data set allows for better customer experience.
Okay. So there is a big data play, and I'm trying to do it at the scale you built the business at is definitely that's where the real complexity, I believe, kicks in. I want to talk a little bit about sustainability as a trend. Are you seeing that with consumers? With this whole lab diamonds movement, is there a movement? Are you seeing this as something that consumers are talking about, or do you feel like, yes, there might be a movement, but that's that's a fringe movement, and the mainstay is different?
Well, in a country like India, lab is not sustainable. It's not a sustainable product. It's a lower cost product, and we play that business as well. So it's not like I'm saying by someone who does not know, who's like a jilted lover kind of thing. That's not the spiel that I have. But the power in this country is still largely coal. And so it's not feasible to say that it's sustainable. So the amount of power that's required to make these machines that grow is quite a lot. And so we're not there yet. When the country moves to green power, automatically everything will become that. Now, at the other end, mining also we cannot say is non-sustainable entirely, because it provides livelihood to a lot of people and does all of that as well also. So I'm on the fence on which side does that particular thing sit. But yeah, but let me take that argument of sustainability into different things as well, also not just into lab and natural. The fact that 30-40% of gold is recycled for new people to consume, that is sustainable for sure. And I think that India is doing a very good job right now of we have not net increased our gold imports for almost 10 years now, because we've been able to recycle a lot of gold in the country. And I'm talking in grammage or tonnage terms, not in value terms, because gold's value keeps rising, rupee keeps depreciating. These two things are not in customers' hands or the jeweler's hands for that matter. Yeah. So sustainability in terms of that raw material is certainly there. The desire of the industry or even the appetite of the industry to move towards sustainable means of distribution, trying to do that through various other areas, wherever there is, for example, plastic or anything else like that, to move away from all of that, move more into reusable things. I see by and large is becoming a way of life for a lot of people, and they are certainly doing that part of it. People are conscious. What I'm not finding, and I'll tell you that if the price of sustainability or carbon credit or anything is beyond the elasticity of the value people pay on it, we are not seeing customers pay for it. So if I was to say that 40% recycled gold is going to cost you 5% more than non-recycled gold, will you be able to go for this as against that? They're not willing to do that. So it becomes a business responsibility and not a consumer responsibility to solve for it.
Especially when it comes to items like gold. If you're buying a t-shirt and the cost of the t-shirt is 15% more, and you 350 rupees, you pay 380. That's fine. I think in the garment sector, they're saying this is fungible enough.
They're also, if you put two next to each other and say this is made from sustainable, non-sustainable, you know, the cola test, if you were to do that and make that happen, like I said, at a small delta, you might still be able to do it,
Sure.
But at a slightly higher delta, you'll struggle, not just jewelry, with every other item as well also. If the delta is higher, then people struggle with it.
Are you seeing this in your packaging as well? Are you trying to use sustainable packaging materials? Are you designing?
Yeah, reasonably. I mean, a lot of it has already moved to that. So there's recycled paper is the big thing that for us, as opposed to plastic anywhere, that comes across. So I think there's a commitment that the group itself has that by FY27, I think we should be carbon neutral. So I think everybody's moving towards that commitment. So.
Okay, so they're saying 27, they want to be net zero at least.
Yes.
Okay, so there is a movement. There is this conversation around sustainability.
Yeah, but again, it's the business conversation, not the consumer conversation.
Okay.
We have not been able to solve for that part. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's either the business solves for it, the consumer solves for it, or the government comes in and solves for it. The government will give you a subsidy or some tax write-off, something, right? So one of the three players has to step in. In this case, you're saying it seems to be business-led more so.
Yes.
And hopefully the voice of the customer will start then compelling the government to step in. And it's always this triangle of interplay.
Yeah.
Okay. What about the e-commerce platforms themselves? Do you see these evolving in the future? Do you see this? Because largely it's still monopolistic, right? There's a few people controlling largely e-commerce in most countries. Where are you seeing this shifting to in the next 5 years? How are you seeing the platforms change and evolve?
No, so that's sort of change always takes you by surprise, right? It's not gradual. So I don't think that we'll be in a position to predict it. But I do feel that the forces of nature are such that we will see that change happen. We will see somebody else who's hungrier, smarter, wanting to do this and make that happen, and building something which is very different. Somebody who turns around and says that I'll find a new model of all of this e-commerce where I don't possibly need to make money. I'll make money some other way on that. And so I think the opportunity is certainly there. And I feel hopeful that new models will keep coming because the rate of change has increased. And when rate of change increases, it impacts everybody. It can't impact just one or two people. So it's hard to imagine. I mean, who would have thought 2 years back that there was any sort of threat to Google at all on that? And today it's not unconceivable that, OpenAI and all these things cannot be a threat as well also on that part. So I think similarly in every other area also, whether it's platforms, etc. We'll see that change. 10 years back, there was no Shopify, there was no Magento, Minion spoke of. You had to code everything and do it. Today, these things have come by. And I was reading, I was watching an interview of the NVIDIA founder, and Wong said that he doesn't see why there will be that many more coders itself also, because coding itself will become scarce. You wouldn't need to code, computer will do that. You'll need to command and sort of make things happen. And so when all of that starts shifting, legacy will take a beating. And somebody will come up with something new with the new tech available and build something which is sustainable at a significantly lesser cost. And that itself puts an enormous amount of pressure on the incumbents.
Okay, fine. So you see the rate of acceleration has changed very rapidly. So change is inevitable. We just things are moving, and there are lots of people trying to spot various opportunities.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to touch a little bit about, you did run the company for so many years. From a management perspective, while you were there, did you see any shifts in terms of the kind of workforce you deployed, and changes in terms of, as you got younger people into the workforce, are you seeing changes and trends in terms of workforce changes, and how are you managing this younger workforce that comes in? How is it obviously shifted from our parents to us, and how are you seeing the shift now in the next 10 years?
What I find rather fascinating, and I was talking about that a couple of days back to somebody, is that 10 years back or 12 years back, we did not have a single English-speaking person in our factory.
Wow.
And now we have all the new people who come and speak English, and all the new people who come in are digitally savvy. And so the relatability to our consumer is increasing as well also. We are finding one common language across, we are finding one common medium across, we're able to disseminate data significantly better. So I think the audience is not that remote from the people who work in our factory that much, at least in their ability to understand. Their financial status will be very, very different, obviously, on that. But at least they have some sense of it. They have visibility into their lives through the digital medium now. They had no visibility into a consumer's life before that. Now, another guy in manufacturing could never really imagine what it was like to look at pieces made anywhere else in the world, because it's not like he traveled to see that. But now content brings it across significantly closer to him, and he's able to use his acumen to try and figure out, how do I sort of make something extraordinary or get better at it as well also. So I do feel that there is education coming into at manufacturing levels as well also, and people are getting better awareness of what they want to do, and that's one big change we're seeing over there. Second, in every role, almost, we have a far more confident, well-informed fresher joining the business, as opposed to, people like us in the 40s actually should be the most worried, because this guy who joins at 22 has the same or more exposure than us. The only thing we have is experience. And we have to just recognize that and say that, how do I use his skill set and my experience and sort of make things work? The minute I go on and sort of my way or highway with them, then I am not going to survive that. Yeah.
Okay. In terms of like the sales staff, within your centers, etc., are you seeing a lot of AI and technology coming in, replacing some of the sales teams? Do you see that sort of change? Is there a botification going on in terms of the sales process? Do you see in the future robots coming into the stores? Like, is there some massive shift you see coming in, or it's far-fetched?
No, in the 5-7 years that forward, at least I can't see something like that happen. But I do feel that what is happening is the time spent per customer is coming down. And that's coming down because the customer is coming well-researched from home itself. He does this time digitally and comes in and does that. We have to invest a lot more in our sales team because the customer is fully informed about what he's coming to buy. And in a high-value item, you ultimately buy confidence. So if you are poorly informed and you're not selling more confidence, you're not delivering confidence for the customer, you're likely to lose a sale, or an almost done sale is something that will fly out from our hands as well also. So I think our need, the amount of time we will need to spend on training will significantly go up as compared to what it was before, because the customer is armed with a lot more information than he was before.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense, especially because with every piece you're putting in all this detailing on the website, and then the guy comes in with all this information, and then the salesperson is like, "Wow, it's so many
Yeah.
SKUs, you better know
Not
what it
just
is."
that, Vibha, he's on Instagram, we're saying how it was made and what happened and everything else. We're ready to make a story on anything and everything right now, right?
Sure,
And if that
sure,
guy has not seen the story and understood it, then he's not able to relate to it at all as well. He'll
sure,
just read a
sure.
tag and say, sir, this product, this much price, and that's the death of it all.
Okay, so you're seeing more well-informed sales personnel.
Quality
No
has to improve.
quality.
Yeah.
Okay, no major AI replacement, no major botification, etc. happening.
I mean, the way I see the role of AI and tech on all of this is that it's a role of magic. Basically, it helps this guy deliver significantly better without coming on the face of it. So the communication should still be between both of these two, but making it available faster, making information real time, all of those kind of things will happen through technology.
Okay.
Nothing else as such.
Nothing else.
I can't imagine making a direct interface happen between the consumer and technology in a retail environment and expecting that it gives customer a lot of satisfaction.
Okay, you can't imagine that. Okay,
Yeah.
so at least in the next 5 to 7 years, you don't see any threat in terms of careers disappearing, careers
Not
getting.
in this. No, I don't see that in the sales and manufacturing sectors. Both these sectors, I don't see that.
Okay,
Yeah.
you don't see that happening. Okay. I want to talk a little bit on the investments business, because there's some talk about how, and you talked about it as well, how you want to, and you've been investing in early stage companies as well. So as you look at these companies, what are, and obviously early stage investments are all done for the future, right? We all have a 7, 8, 10-year view on these investments. So what are some of the trends that you're trying to look in and capitalize on as you build your early stage portfolio?
Look, I mean, I'm not the smartest at this, but I'll tell you that the way I think about it, at least, is that there are incumbents who are serving very average quality products to people. And they are largely in the corporate sector because they are marketing run companies, they're not product run companies. So I love finding product run companies and attach great marketing people with them and see how do you sort of solve in a triangle. You solve first for the most amazing product. You make sure it's the desired pricing that the customer wants and is willing to pay for it, and then add extraordinary distribution for it. Most incumbent companies have great distribution, but very poor on first and second. The minute the brand gets stronger, they want to charge more for it. And Amazon's taught everybody that the minute you get more popularity, you should further reduce the price because your dollar is anyways more. You're going to get more dollars as well also, so that you don't allow competitors to come in. And it's exactly the opposite when it comes to large-scale operations of corporates in India. So I find that is a very easy space to penetrate and enter into.
Okay. So you like product. You still want to
Well,
be
yeah,
a
I'm
physical
sorry,
product.
maybe not very easy, but at least there's an opportunity seems very ripe over there.
Okay, so product businesses.
Yeah.
But any sectoral plays you are looking at in terms of, maybe 2 or 3 sectors that you feel are futuristic?
No, I mean, not sectors particularly as such, but I like disorganized markets. I like where the role of the product is very large. I like where you control your own distribution. You don't have to go into general trade and do that because you can't solve for experience in general trade or modern trade, both for that matter. So I like businesses where your destiny is in your own hands. Yeah.
Okay, so you like controlling the supply chain.
Yeah.
Okay. You like this line by C.K. Prahlad I read in one of your interviews about don't focus on best practices, also focus on next practices. So in terms of next practices, what are you seeing in terms of next practices as you run organizations and think about it, again, from the future of work context?
I think in terms of management practices, which C.K. Prahlad was a big guru of, and I also think of the best practice today is a corporate structure that exists everywhere. But I think the next practice is the way startups are run. And I think how do you make that happen at scale is a very important thing to do. Give people the freedom to come in and out. Give people, let the hunger be there. The hungrier people get more opportunities. Do that with compassion for people who don't want it. Have more candor in the organization to say that when you're delivering more, you make more. When you're delivering less, it's not seniority. It's the person who's delivering more as well also. All of these things need to play out, because when you start solving for seniority, which is what currently happens in management as such, we sort of shortchange the customer in the end. And all of this is the price that a customer pays. But if you were to run it literally like how a startup runs that, I think, and I did a 2-month internship right now, not 2 months, but 1.5 months internship right now at Airtel. I was shadowing Gopal Vittal, and I can tell you that he's one guy who runs it almost like a startup. It's like a mature startup, because you don't sort of not think of cash flow, you think of that as well also, and he builds it. And I think that's just a great management practice that that we could sort of learn. That, to me, that would be next practice.
Okay, so no hierarchy rewarding performance despite your seniority. Okay,
Yeah.
Let's move towards the last 2-3 segments. Talk about skills. As you know, now you've been through one journey with a certain skill set that worked for you as you were building this journey out. Now, as you build for the future, your next endeavor, etc., what are some of the skills you feel are going to help you be future ready? And what should young people really be thinking about if you were to start a new company, you're going to hire? What sort of skills would you be looking for to build the next generation business?
Once again, I come back to my pet point that the rate of change is significantly faster. The skill you really need to have is the ability to learn. And as long as you're curious and have the ability to learn or desire to learn, whichever is the right English for this, I think you will solve for whatever situation comes your way. You need agility and desire to learn. I think the combination of these two will make you deliver in any environment. When you feel like you've learned a skill set and you want to apply that, that's when you start losing out against the rate of change.
So you're saying world is moving very, very fast. Be agile, be curious, and want to learn. Okay.
Yes.
I know you studied commerce, at the undergraduate level, etc. But if you were to go back, and like a lot of people we talk to are trying to figure out what to do with colleges, parents are so worried, etc. If you were to go back to get a degree that's today going to prepare you for the next 20, 25 years, what do you think you would study? What degree do you think would be helpful?
I would do psychology, and along with psychology, I possibly will do statistics.
Statistics and psychology. Okay. So psychology, I'm assuming, to understand the human mind and consumer behavior patterns.
Yeah.
Okay. And why would you want to do stats?
I don't know. I think it's a very useful skill set to have, to be able to understand, to be able to do probability, to be able to understand, large cohorts when you look at and want to solve for it. It certainly does help.
Okay, so it's
and maybe I have a desire to learn that. So.
Okay, so probabilities will help you obviously plan out futuristic scenarios and data again. So you're back to the data and being able to process. You obviously think big. So large amounts of data, how do you process that sort of data?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just putting on your predictive.
It's the best way to overcome your biases is when you put,
put data behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And psychology helps you ask the right kind of questions.
Okay, I like that. I like that thought. Psychology lets you ask the right kind of questions. Okay, so let's ask you another question on futuristic jobs. So if you were to just put on your sci-fi hat and say, in 5-10 years, like these are 2 or 3 careers that don't exist today, but might exist in the future. What is there something that's coming to your mind? It could be anything from like space, travel, green energy, whatever.
Yeah, no, I think we'll have Tiwari driver will take us to moon. And,
you think it'll happen? You think in 10 years?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, reusable rockets are there already. It's a function of time now to bring the cost down, and we'll sort of we will travel. There's no doubt about that. In my mind, at least, there's no doubt. And space will become the biggest creator of new economy over everything else. The word internet gave us a $25 trillion economy. The word space possibly gave us a $50-100 trillion economy.
Oh, so you really think space travel will become for the not common man, but still more accessible?
No, I think for it to become 50 trillion, it has to become for the common man. So I think we will see massive changes in that area. Okay. And it'll happen faster than we imagine.
Okay, let's see if that'll open up a whole Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Literally. Okay. And last question, let's take there are people we've spoken to who are able to give us like a boom day scenario where like, oh, this is how the world could be 10 years from now, where it's like positive, happy, you know, everything is well. And then a gloom day scenario where it's like, well, if the robots come in and this is what could happen. So from the way you see it, like, is there a gloom day scenario that you envision where just we have an apocalypse, or do you see a positive, like, where are you on this?
I mean, the gloom day scenario is that the forces of nature, against which humans can never fight, is the only gloom day scenario I can think of. That the forces of nature. Yeah, okay. Forces of nature overcomes any arrogance that the human race has ever had. I mean, that's the only doomsday scenario that I see.
Technology is not worrying you. You're not worried about AI tech coming in.
I don't think singularity as the technology, I mean, as that day is called, is something that I worry about, because humanity will work towards solving for that as well. So I don't see the robots overtaking the humans. Okay. I'm not able to see that, frankly. I'm not that smart, as I told you earlier as well also. So I can't see how that happens.
Okay, but nature taking over you is a possibility.
It is a possibility. It's a worry. Every time nature puts its fury out there, you know, whether it's the form of an earthquake or a volcano or a cyclone or a tsunami, and I've seen all four now, it just feels far more dangerous than anything else.
Anything humans can solve.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And a happy scenario, is there an optimist scenario where, like, space travel, you're saying it's going to become one of those?
Yeah, I think if we find one more, I mean, it's such a large universe, and I'm sure there's one more Earth somewhere else that we can create and find and form. And if we can make movement between these things happen, then all those who are hoarders of land, etc., all that can be shipped off over there itself also. Yeah.
Okay, that's a very
yeah. All those who are, you know, all the megalomaniacs and all the crazy people that we have, we can send them off to that planet to sort of go and conquer the world as they see.
What if they find a whole bunch of diamond mines over there in Sunny? The price of diamonds also comes down. That's another resource that you have.
No problem at all. No, if it comes out, become more accessible for people.
More accessible, huh? But the price points also obviously
50% of people buy it for investment. The 50% buy it for, you know, vanity. So we'll solve for more vanity and less for investment. Yeah.
Okay. All right. On that note, Mithun Sacheti, thank you so much for doing this, and it was an absolute pleasure. You kept saying you were not smart, but you gave me a lot of food for thought for the book. So thank you, and look forward to connecting again soon.
Thank you, Vibha. Bye.
Thank you.